You want to be really happy?
Yeah.
Don't try to be happy.
Because?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Now this may sound kind of crazy. What? Don't try to be happy? Well, we'll try to explain this as Igor and I go on a walk.
Ow! I need the sunglasses. Maybe not.
So I'm actually not very happy in life. I have to admit, tons of anxieties about money, about relationships, about health. And most of us can relate to that, right? I mean, how many of us have like amazing karma where like nothing's wrong in our life, we're getting everything we ever desired and everything is just like dandy.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
We got to distinguish between two types of happinesses. One type of happiness is what we can call a material happiness. A happiness that comes as a result basically of contact between our senses, you know, our eyes, our nose, our touch, our sex organs, especially our sex organs, and their sense objects, right? That's one kind of happiness. And you got also, you know, subtle material happiness, like the mind, the kind of happiness that the mind and the intellect can enjoy in contact with their respective sense objects. One type of happiness is what we can call happiness in ignorance. Happiness, or so-called happiness, that comes from taking drugs, from getting drunk, from like oversleeping, or from, yeah, basically those kind of things. Like, oh dude, I'm just so happy. Another type of happiness is the kind of happiness that we can call happiness in passion. The kind of happiness that comes from sex, for example. From, you know, hankering to get a lot of money or to get a lot of power, or when you get that. And of course including, as I said, like interaction between man and woman, or if you're gay or lesbian, I guess it's man and woman or woman, but the principle is the same. That intense longing, like, I love you. Me too. I want you. Me too. I despise you. Me too. Another type of happiness, still in the category of material happiness, is happiness that's in the mode of goodness, influenced by virtue or goodness. So, you know, the typical pleasure that comes from reading poetry, or from, you know, listening to classical music, or taking walks with, you know, handsome gentlemen, we're not gay, in beautiful parks, you know? Or like, this book is absolutely excellent. Have you heard of Aldous Huxley? How do we become happy in life? Joy, man.
Can you repeat?
What is the secret to happiness?
Well, I didn't find yet, but I hope I will.
And finally, there's a different type of happiness, a different category altogether. Happiness that's spiritual in nature, that exists beyond sense perception. In other words, the happiness of the soul, and the happiness that comes when the soul connects with its very source, namely the divine or God. And that type of happiness is theoretically, and I kind of believe it, I mean I really believe it, but I'm not gonna pretend I have some sort of higher understanding or higher realization than I do. That type of happiness is unlimited, and it starts as total happiness and actually never ends. And that type of happiness doesn't depend on material happiness, or whether you're poor or rich, or you know, rich or, I mean, beautiful or ugly, or popular or not, or healthy or unhealthy, etc., etc. That happiness is transcendental, or above any type of material consideration. And that's the kind of happiness we should, along the other happiness which kind of comes and goes, that happiness is the kind of happiness we should all be looking for. Idemo.
Idemo.
And so was the lesson of the day about happiness.